about what is programming and hello friends, welcome to my new YouTube channel Code Paneer. Today in this video we will be talking about what is programming and programming languages. So let's start. As you know that we human beings need some languages to communicate like Hindi, English and so on. Similarly, to communicate with the computer or to make interface between the computer and user, we need languages which are called programming language. Actually, one important fact or reality about the computer is that computer don't know anything. Computer is dumb and hence it cannot perform any task on its own. So what we came to know that computer is not able to do, or it is not that much trained to do all the tasks on its own. In fact, it cannot do any kind of task on its own. So the question arises that why we need to communicate with the computer, and hence why we need programming language. You can ask this question. So the answer that we can take from here is that as we came to know that computer cannot perform task on its own, but our main motive of inventing computer was that we can improve our computational skills and we can perform some task fast, which cannot be done by the humans. So to fulfill this requirement, and after knowing this fact that computer cannot perform task on its own, we need to interact with the computer. That means we have to communicate with the computer, and for the communication purpose, you know that we need some languages, and those languages are called programming languages. So you will see that to make the computer to perform some task, the user have to communicate with the computer. So what is communication? So communication basically means in the context of the communicating with the computer, it basically means that user will give some set of instructions to the computer, and then computer understand those set of instructions, and on the basis of those instructions it will perform the task. That means if we want the computer to do some particular task, then we have to give instructions to the computer. Then only computer will be able to do some tasks like robots. So for communicating, that's why we need some programming languages. Now we came to know about the why we need to communicate with the computer and why we need programming language. So, and also we studied that we need to give some set of instructions to the computer, then only computer will start working on some particular work. So you can see here in this diagram we have a user here and a computer here. So user is giving instructions to the computer, and then computer will take this set of instructions and understand all those set of instructions, and basis and the based on those instructions computer will perform all the tasks. So this is how user communicates with the computer, or the interface between user and computer takes place. Set of instructions is very important for the computer if we want to make the computer to do some task. So these were some facts about the computer which will help to define what is programming. So now we can define what is programming. So let's move to the next slide, which is about what is programming. So programming is nothing but it is a process of making sets of instructions that tell the computer how to perform a task, or you can also say that it is nothing but implementation of the various sets of instructions given to the computer. So what is programming? This is nothing but it is a way, or it is a method by which we can give the set of instructions to the computer. You know that the set of instructions that we give to the computer is called program, but the method by which we give the set of instructions is called programming, or the process by which we give the set of instructions is called programming. On the other hand, the set of instructions are called program. So user will write the program, or user will write the instructions to, and those instructions will be read by the computer, and then it will work. So this was the basic definition of the programming, and for your reference you can see here we have a diagram based on which the user is giving input a program or a set of instruction to the computer, and then here processing parts here happening. You can say that user is giving input to the computer or the CPU, which is processing, which involves some interface with the memory also, and then the output will come on the terminal. So this is the basic structure how a user and a computer interact with each other, and how we get output from the computer. So here we gave input in the form of program, or which you can also call set of instructions, and then computer takes and understands those instructions, and based on those instructions it will give output to this. So up to here, as we have discussed what is programming, and now we will see what are programming languages, as we need some language to communicate with the computer, because we will write sets of instructions or some instructions in some languages. So we need to write in some programming languages which are predefined. So now we will define the what is programming language. So coming to the next slide, you can see programming languages. So here you can say that programming language is nothing but a computer language which is used by the programmer to give the set of instructions. This is that much simple definition of the programming language. Like us, like human beings use some languages, so similarly the programmer will use some kind of language to communicate with the computer, or programmer will write some kind of instructions which will be given to the computer in some language. So that language or that computer language is called programming language. I hope that this is clear. So now moving on to the types of the programming languages, we have mainly three types. First is assembly language, second is the machine language, third is the high level language. So in this video what we will study, that we'll talk about only the machine and high level language, and we will see that how they are different with each other, and what is machine language and what is high level language, what are differences between them on various factors, and we will also compare them, and finally we will conclude that which one is better to use by the humans, and which one is understandable by the computer. So let's start the comparison part between the machine and high level language. So you can see here high level versus machine language slide is open. Now we will learn about machine language first. So machine language is nothing but it is a sequence of zeros and ones. What does sequence means? If you will compare with the English language, you know that English language have some alphabets or letters like A, B, C, D. By combining those letters we make some meaningful words, then by combining some meaningful words we make sentences. Similarly, for the machine language, the alphabets are 0 and 1. By combination of by combinations of these zeros and ones by combinations of these zeros and ones make different meanings, such as the combinations of letters in the English language makes different meanings. Similarly, the combination of 0 and 1, which is alphabets for the machine language, acts as some meaningful words. We can make some meaningful words and hence some sentences. So this is what machine language comprises of. Now another thing that you should know is that computer can only understand machine language. That means computer only know 0 and 1. So as you know that we call 0 and 1 as binary numbers also, so that's why this machine language can also be called as binary language, because it involves the binary numbers which are zeros and ones. So computer only understand the language of 0 and 1, that is, it only understand the machine language. But on the other hand, it is very difficult to understand for humans. It is very difficult, at most impossible, almost impossible for the humans to understand this machine language, and also to write machine language. It is very difficult for humans. But on the other hand, computer know only this machine language only. So now coming on to the high level language, we have completed the part of the machine language. Now coming to the high level language, high level language is somewhat simpler than the machine language, because it typically contains the English words. It typically contains the English words and phrases. By reading this, you can decide that this language would be simple, and actually it is simple because it is just like human friendly language. That means human can easily understand and write this language also. So because it typically contains some English words and phrases, so this is easy to understand and write for humans, very easy. And but on the other hand, the problem is that computer cannot understand this language. So what we came to know here is that computer know only machine language, but computer don't know high level language. But humans know high level language and computer does not know machine language. So there is a barrier between the communication. There is a huge barrier of communication between the mach- uh, between the computer and the user. So this was the very big problem. So we will talk in the video only that how to solve this issue. So now coming to the high level language, the examples of high level language you can see here is the C++, Java, Python. I hope that you have heard some of these, like at least some C++, Java, and Python. These are some high level language which are very easy to understand and write for humans. That's why we write all the code or program or set of instructions in this language only. But as we have talked about earlier about that there is a big issue here, because computer only understand machine language, and humans only understand high level language at a much larger extent. So how to deal with this problem? If we want to communicate with the computer or to make interface between the computer and the user, then we have to solve this issue, because we will write the code in the high level language and it should be converted into a machine language so that computer can understand. So to solve this problem, what we will be using is that we will use the compiler and interpreter system which is called compiler and interpreter for converting the high level language into the machine level language. So we will talk about them in the next slide. You can see here that from above we can conclude that high level language is far better than machine language, as it is easy to understand for humans and right also. So now moving for the compiler and interpreter part, we will talk about and compare both of them on the basis of various factors and their mechanism also. So let's move to the next slide. What we will learn here, first we will talk about compiler. So what is compiler? So compiler is nothing but it is a program. It is just a program or set of instructions which reads source code is in high level language and output into the machine language. That means output of the compiler will go to this input to the CPU or computer, which should be in machine language. So compiler converts the high level language into machine language. So this is the basic work done by the compiler. And compiler executes whole code at a time. That means if you have some kind of code written in your computer or laptop, then if you will compile, then it will compile whole code at a time. So and if your code have some error, then it will show error while compiling on your terminal or on your display screen. Now you can see here in this diagram I have showed to you that how source code it is in high level language is 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 uh, is going to compile here with the help of compiler or interpreter, and then it and the output is machine language here, so that computer can understand and execute on those set of instructions or the code written by the user. Now coming on to the interpreter, what how interpreter uh, changes the high level language into machine level language. Actually the method is same as of the compiler. Interpreter does the same as what done by the compiler. So interpreter also converts the source code into a machine language, that means high level language into a machine language. But the difference between both came here on the factor of execution process. So the behavior of executing the code is somewhat different. It executes the program line by line but not at a time. You know that we have studied that, we have talked about that compiler compiles the whole code at a time, but the interpreter interprets or executes the code line by line but not at a time. So this was the main difference between them. And also interpreter will stop automatically when an error occurs. So these were discussions about what is programming and programming languages, different types of languages, and how to deal with the big problem that was acting barrier for the communication or making interface between the computer and the user. We have solved that big problem with the help of compiler and interpreter. We talked about the compiler and interpreter. So we have covered all the lessons for this video. So that's it for today. In case if you like the video, then please like, share and subscribe. And we will meet soon in the next upcoming video, which is on first C program and basic syntax of C program. So that's it for today. Thank you and Jai Hind.